going on? How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
Good.
I appreciate you doing this.
Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm a little humbled just seeing all the people you've interviewed and just
Oh,
you know like man, hope I can add something to this.
I'm sure you can. You just got to tell your story. It's very simple. So, Roger, tell me about where you grew up.
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. We lived on the south end of town. My father was an optometrist and was married his next door neighbor, and that was my mother. And my
Oh,
mother's
interesting.
yeah, she's I'm the youngest of five children, and so my when I was born, my mother took one look at me and looked at all this house full of kids and said, "Oh my goodness, what have I done with my life?" And so she went back and she got a master's degree and a PhD. So some of my earliest memories are being in the preschool area at a little college in Birmingham called Sanford, and then that continued all the way to when I was learning how to drive, and we would drive down to the University of Alabama, which was about an hour drive from where I lived. But yeah, she translates 12th century Latin texts about King Arthur. Um, so
Wow, that's a very
pretty amazing.
specific duty,
Yeah,
huh?
I know. And so I'm probably the only person that you've met that grew up having his mother read him Beowulf and The Hobbit as my bedtime stories. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
That's funny. Right on. Well, where'd your musical journey start?
Well, I played, sang and played in high school. I went to uh, high school north of Birmingham
Hmm.
called Gardendale High School. We were the Rockets, and
The Rockets.
so any kind of musical opportunity that there was in high school, I took advantage of it. So I was in the band. I was drum major of the band. I was a very uh, average at best saxophone player. But the thing I really loved was choir, and that's really where I found my passion. And I sang all 4 years and did and then just tried any chance there was to sing. I did. So I did all the all state choirs. I got to travel around Europe with America's Youth in Concert when I was in high school, so I did a lot of music there in in high school, and then went to college. And ironically, there was not a music major where I went to college. So,
Oh, yeah, it's
so I
interesting.
majored in German, the next best thing.
What was
But
it in German?
I majored in German. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Why
No.
German? Why the interest in that language?
My parents are still asking me that now.
Oh, really?
Essentially, I went to a small liberal arts school in Virginia called Washington and Lee University, and I majored in the professors more than I majored in the subject matter. I was inspired by the professors, and just kind of kept with the German. But what I really wanted to do was play music,
Hmm.
and so I had sang in all the choirs there at the college, and sang in the a cappella group, and then started playing acoustic guitar, and then had a couple of friends that we started playing with, and so I started really it came out of those music groups, and
Hmm.
we sort of took that and then just started playing for our friends basically, and then stayed up. Still remember my buddy Eric that who's from Los Angeles originally, which is kind of funny that we met in Virginia. Uh,
Yeah.
and he had family from that area, but I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. Like we were going to be big stars. Come on, man, we can do this. We can do this. But we did. We had a great time. Played for 3 years with my friend Eric, and so that's where I started traveling and playing and
Like touring and everything?
say sorry.
Were you like touring? You guys were like pretty actively performing?
Yeah, we would. We played a lot of, a lot of fraternity parties and a lot of clubs and places where you can, you just kind of learn to play for 4 hours. In fact, I just ran across and hold. I'll show it to everybody here. I showed this to Eric. This was our set list, like from 1985. It just happened to be in some. I'm not even sure why I even had this.
Oh my gosh. What's on there? Covers or that
Yeah, they're all
original
cover
stuff?
tunes, and they're like, it's like we knew like 70 songs. I mean, it's
Wow.
just kind of crazy. That was enough for 5 sets of music. So Allman Brothers, Simon and Garfunkel, Dave Matthews, a lot of Beatles,
Mhm.
and so really, and we got to do some cool things where we lived in Atlanta for a while, and we used to open for the Indigo Girls before they were signed.
Really?
Uh,
Wow.
Back when they were playing places like the Little 5 Points pub in Atlanta, and so just had some really really incredible experiences, and then we both at that point were both pretty serious um, with our relationships and kind of went our separate ways at that point.
Mhm.
But we still play at least once a year. The college will bring us back to play for alumni weekend.
Oh,
Uh,
really? That's cool.
yeah,
And
yeah.
do you just do cover songs or did you guys have original material?
Yeah, we do mainly we do covers, but we also wrote a lot of original stuff. We did a couple of vinyl records,
Really?
back in the day, and
Wow.
uh, so they're we it, we were just beginning to write, and actually I think just kind of we're getting pretty good at it. But it's hard to make that transition when you're playing cover tunes, and that's how kind of you're paying the rent,
Mhm.
um, and it's hard to make that transition. It's almost like you gotta make a decision at some point. I'm gonna just only do my own stuff, or I'm gonna do covers, and kind of we uh, never quite got to that other side,
Mhm.
uh, but definitely loved every minute of playing.
Mhm.
When we were able to tour like that. So,
That's cool. Well, then how did the children's music start?
well, I all through high school and through college, I worked at summer camps, and so I think
Oh.
probably something you hear from other, you know, children's musicians, and so I learned just the power that music has to kind of organize kids, to kind of get them from one activity to the next, to
Mhm.
either get them really really excited about something or calm them down. So I worked at a couple of different summer camps. One of them was um, very a very diverse group of kids from combination of kind of the Appalachian area of Birmingham and the inner city youth of Birmingham. So it was like these, and then mainly you had middle class college kids that were kind of running the show. So to see
Mhm.
music bring all of those people together, it's a powerful thing, and I've never, that's really been the basis of what I've done, is that knowledge that music can really can teach kids, can keep kids focused, can encourage kids. So in a lot of ways, when I you know when I started playing, I just learning, like I was showing that set list, just learning that many songs, just
Mhm.
the physical, like getting your muscles in shape and getting your voice in shape, and learning how to entertain a group of people. So you kind of learn that first, and then you start learning your craft of songwriting, and then uh, kind of learning that, and then having that all sort of go full circle back to doing family and children's music is I couldn't do what I'm doing now without every part of the journey, the musical journey that I've been on. It's all
Mhm.
built towards this career of doing family and children's music.
Mm-hmm. And so you just what because you had that knowledge and skills from just working at these summer camps, and you just decided, hey, let's start writing. Like, what was the first kid song you wrote and you're like, wow, this could actually be a career?
Man, so I've got a lot of nieces and nephews. My wife and I both are the youngest of 5 children.
Oh
Um,
wow, okay.
we've got just tons of nieces and nephews, and about this point, we had moved to Nashville. We live in Franklin, which is a town just south of Nashville.
Oh dude, that's where my wife and I want to move so bad.
Dang, oh man,
Yeah,
wow,
it's
you know,
that's awesome because we were actually supposed to be out. We were supposed to come out and see Nashville in July, and then this was way prior to COVID, and then COVID hit, and we didn't get to make it out there. But yeah, that's cool. That's exactly where we were looking. We really like the area.
well, we've loved it. We lived in Nashville proper, and then when my oldest son, pardon me, when he started kindergarten, we moved out here, and I'm like, he's about to turn 28, so
Oh my gosh.
for a while.
Yeah.
My wife is a school teacher out here. She works with we have an early intervention program for kids with special needs, and
Oh wow.
yeah, so that's what she does. And the elementary school that kind of our community feeds is just it's like a mile away. So it's been a great spot. I highly recommend it.
That's
So,
amazing. Yeah, our younger son he's autistic, and he's in like an integrated program here. And that
okay.
was like one of the things that we're like, uh-oh, like what are we gonna do? We're gonna lose all this support here in California.
Oh man, I can tell you that if y'all wound up coming to Franklin, you'd be really happy with the services here. People do move from all over the state and all over the region to be in this school system and to work with people like my wife and her.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. That's
yeah,
amazing to know. That's
oh
really
yeah,
good to know. Very cool.
and they're
Uh,
learning all these challenges of. In fact, before we did, before we started this, I was like, I got to figure out how to do Zoom. I've done a couple of Zoom calls, and so she was calling me on her Zoom thing, and so but she's the kids are doing a great job. I don't know if your son's doing Zoom classes with his teacher, but
he was at the end of last year, and then this year they haven't started yet. My older son is started. He started this week, but
okay.
my younger son, he hasn't started yet. I think they start like right before Labor Day or maybe right after Labor Day. I can't remember. But it was
Yeah,
difficult to keep them on the Zoom. I mean, they were doing like hour meetings on like a Fridays only,
yeah,
and then they ended up having to change it to 30 minutes because the kids weren't. I mean, he's 4. Like they weren't
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
doing. They
It's
were
a whole
trying to do like an activity or something, and it was
right.
just like no.
It's a whole different set of skills that the teachers are having to take on. And
Hmm.
what we're doing here is like a lot of places where you've got um, some of the kids are coming to the classroom. They started class I think last week, and then
Hmm.
but some of the families have decided to be online, and then they have to kind of be ready at a moment's notice to do the virtual learning. They're doing a great job. I am a big fan of teachers, and I don't think we quite praise them enough. And I think
Uh-uh.
that's what we've learned during this whole pandemic is what a tough job it is to be a teacher. So
Yeah, my wife's a teacher as well, and
oh no kidding.
actually what she does is now she's not currently teaching, but she works for a bunch of colleges and teaches, and is actually before COVID, like I mean, her whole job was moving teachers' curriculum online and helping them like
Okay.
design their. So now she's just like slammed because everybody's got to figure out how to put their curriculum online now. So it's been like, yeah, she's like swamped with it. So,
Uh, oh,
but
that's
yeah,
great.
everyone's trying to figure it out, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's and that's one of the things that with doing this whole project that I've been doing is
Hmm.
there've been a lot of delays with just completely unrelated to the pandemic, but really started this project, started writing the songs almost 4 years ago, and got everybody in the studio in 2018, and then we kind of had some delays there, had to put it off for a little bit, and then there was some, I lost my dad a year ago in April, and
Oh.
so we put everything on hold for while we were kind of taking care of him and taking
Mhm.
care of my mother's life. That's what
Sure.
they'll tell you when you want to be a rock star, is that life is going to happen anyway. Uh,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so finally got this together, and then it looked like we were trying to get this out in April, and then we were trying to get it out in June, and then we finally gotten it out here in August, and I feel like the message has been, in some ways it's been the right message at the right time, where it's
Mhm.
about solving the problem and saving the day, and I think that's a good thing for this for these kids to hear, because they've I think they've been under a lot of pressure these
Oh
last
yeah. I
few
don't think
months.
they're really, a lot of them can't, it's hard for kids to really understand like what's going on, to the extent
Right.
of like, why am I still inside? It's been 6 months now.
Yeah.
So yeah, my younger son always just said he will see something on TV or want to do something and say, well, when coronavirus goes away, can we go do blah blah blah? And it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely an interesting time, and everyone's got to try to adapt to. So, um, but back to your story. So you were doing the camps. You started writing children's songs. So I did see that you put out a record like in '97, Rock and Roll Rodeo. Was that the first album you put out?
That was the first one. Yeah. I kind of, and I think one of the things that makes a good children's performer is, I have an attention span that's not that great. So it's,
I'm
yeah.
there
So
with you.
when we had these nieces and nephews, I think we've got 22. So I would write songs every year for Christmas. And so the first song I wrote was Marvin the Marvelous Moose. And so the nieces and nephews really liked it. So I got a lot of encouragement from siblings, and so I did that every year, and then had enough material to kind of make these cassette tapes. And at the time, I went from playing with my friend Eric to then I was doing solo, the National Association of Campus Activities. So basically doing solo coffee house shows at colleges all over the country. And so while I was doing that, and I would play. I'd play in one. My best tour was when I drove from Nashville to Charlotte, which is about 450 miles, and then got up the next day and drove to State College, Pennsylvania. Played at Penn State, and which I don't know, that was like 550 miles, 600 miles. And then the next day, I got up and drove over to South Bend, Indiana, because there's a sister school to Notre Dame called St. Mary's College, and I played there. And then I drove back home to Nashville.
Oh
And
my goodness.
man, so a lot of time on the road. So I started. I thought, well, how can I begin to? How can I make this a richer experience? Because at that point, I had been playing right when I'd gotten out of college, and I'm playing for my friends, and so you're not that much older than the people you're playing for, and so it's all really fun, and there's a lot of great energy there. But when I was really in my late 20s, early 30s, I was married. We had started a family. I kind of had a different perspective. And what I found with the college students is that I kind of they were very interested, because I was still young, but I was just enough further down the road that they were interested in kind of what my life was like, not just the music, but what my kind of who I was, and how that I manage raising kids, and being married. And so what I started to do was I started doing kind of pro bono kid shows that were kind of unrelated to the reason the colleges were booking me. I just offer and say, look, if y'all want me to come early, I'll come early. I'll stay late. We'll go to a Head Start program. We'll get all the kids who volunteer, the students who volunteer, and we'll just go do a kid show. And I had about 20 minutes of material, and I used to tell people, the kids only had about a 20-minute attention span, and then what I realized is because I only had 20 minutes of music that was worth listening to. Very different thing. But I just, it was like, I don't know. I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I should be doing. And it just fit with my life, with my young children at home, with my interest in education and interest in trying to encourage and inspire kids. And I just felt like, boy, this has come full circle. And everything kind of came together, the writing, the performing, because when I was doing the playing for the colleges, it's very different than playing a fraternity party where all of a sudden everybody's looking at me, and I actually had to have a story that had a point. It had to have a beginning and a middle and an end. And I learned that it was okay to craft what you were saying. Almost like a stand-up comedian sort of practice, gets material, and when you see them, you think, oh man, that's spontaneous.
They're just on the cuff. Yeah.
They've done that, 50 times, and it took them maybe 48 times before they got the timing down right. So, so we went from just learning how to play and play for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, to then having something to say, and then the craft of songwriting kind of coming together with that. It just, it was around that time when I did the Rock and Roll Rodeo. We had 2 kids, and I told my wife, I said, and because I was pretty busy on the college coffee house tour, and but I kind of gave you a sense of what those tours were like, and it took a lot of just time and energy to make that happen, and I said, honey, I think I want to play kids music. And and then I told all my friends, particularly my friends in Nashville, and I said, I think I'm going to play kids music. I think I'm going to give up on doing the college touring and play kids music. And they were like, what? Because Nashville's a lot about having a gig. If you've got a gig, you stick with it. And so I was kind of going, I think I'm supposed to do this. And that's the only way I can explain doing that. So my wife said, yes, we can do that. And, we're going to have we'll have a third child, and somebody's going to have to stay at home with the youngest. So I was a stay-at-home dad for about 2 years. And that's when I kind of knew what I wanted to do at that point. So I was writing a lot. And, at this point you kind of learn I knew some great musicians here in Nashville. And so just it kind of all came together. I mean, I can't believe now that I had that kind of courage to just say, this is what I feel in my heart, and I'm going to do it, and it's all going to work out. Because that seems, particularly right now, that seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think that's
so.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been doing this now, over 20 years later. You're still putting out records. You have a new album that just came out.
Yes, yeah, and the thing is, I love writing in this genre, and just I love the writing more than I do anything else. When I started writing songs, and it was like it would almost hurt to write that second verse. The first verse you could usually come up with, chorus you could come up with okay, and then write that second verse. It was just like it was just agonizing. usually when I go back and I listen to those early songs, like, yeah, it was kind of agonizing. It's kind of agonizing to listen to it. And and now and when I do songwriting workshops with students, which is one of the things that I get to do a lot these days, is kind of work with, particularly with fourth graders, because they're learning about creative writing, and
Hmm.
so I tell them, the the editing, the revising, that's actually the part that I love now. In fact, I have to kind of stop, I have to tell myself, no, I'm done. I can't keep writing the same song again and again and again.
Sure.
So I don't know if, other writers have had that experience where it just kind of goes from something it feels like it's magic, it just kind of hits you. And then you kind of figure out, no, this is like building it's like building something. It's like, and then it's like a workshop. And then you're like, let me try this here. And let me try,
Hmm.
oh man, listen, let me do this. Let me do that. And it could go any number of ways. You could put it together 100 different ways. So, for me, it's been neat to watch it go from something that I thought there was only one way you could do it. And if anybody
Hmm.
criticized that one line, just killed you. You're just like, oh, no, that's perfect. And now it's like, I just won't stop writing.
Yeah. So with this new album, tell me about, like, you have like a visual aspect to it. Obviously, you're standing in front of
Yeah,
a big background. Like, tell me about the project.
yeah. So I do a lot of work with summer reading programs at libraries. So
Hmm.
and I don't always do a show specifically for that theme, but every summer they have a theme. And one year it was, read like a superhero or something along those lines. And and I had been doing some co-writing, and there was a great, very talented songwriter here in Nashville. Lives in my neighborhood. His name is Josh Castle, and
Hmm.
so Josh and I we had a writing session, and I said, I got this theme for this summer. Or I could use a theme for this summer for the summer reading, and he said, what is it? And I said, well, it's about superheroes. And he started playing, like, in a minor key, sort of that mysterious lick on the guitar. And
Yeah.
the first words that came out of my mouth, and this is one of the things I tell my songwriting classes, is like, you got to be ready for those aha moments, those first ideas that just kind of pop into your head. And so I just blurted out, I'm invincible, it's undeniable, I got a power that's unbeatable, la 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 la. And then we were, just, it was so fun to work in that kind of genre of writing about superheroes. And the thing about the songs are, I'm singing about superheroes, but the whole thing is really a subversive superhero project, because it's the message is, you've already got all the tools you need. You've got your imagination. You've got the ability to do critical thinking, and you can break down a complex problem and make it simpler. And you've already got all that. It's in your brain. It's you actually don't need a super suit in all these things. And so um, it's been fun to kind of play around with that, to pretend like you're a superhero, but also be telling kids, no, no, in fact, my favorite line in the whole thing, which I think is really um, important right now, is where I've got a song that's called "Solve the Problem, Save the Day," and actually on this song, I really was trying to follow critical thinking in the song, where you get kids to answer questions. How do you solve the problem? How do you capture the bad guy? Do you just give up? Do you keep going? What do you do? And I don't answer the question in the song. I did it first. It was kind of interesting from a songwriting standpoint, because I was trying to make this whole complete thing, and I went, no, that's not what critical thinking is about. What you want kids are to ask the questions. And so the most important line of the whole song is where I stop and say, life is full of problems, but it's full of answers too. And that's what I hope when kids and when families and when teachers, when they listen to this, that's what I hope they kind of take with them, and it kind of gets into their heart, that sense that particularly right now, just feels like problems are coming at us from every direction and they seem really, really unsolvable. And but what the message that these kids need to hear is, yeah, these are hard problems, but we are going to solve these problems, and we are. And I that is one thing I do believe, is that we're going to solve these problems, and we're in the middle of solving the problems now. And it's going to be incredibly exciting for these kids that kind of have gone from feeling like, I can't go play with my friends, and then these really smart, clever people are going to come up with some answers, and they're going to go, wow. And some of these kids are going to be a part of that solution. If I can do a quick humble brag on my kids. My oldest son is in fourth year of medical school at Vanderbilt, and
Wow.
And he's going to go into pediatrics, and and I meet his friends, and they're just so inspiring. And these are the people that I grew up, these are the kids that I wrote music for, that I started off writing for back when I started in the mid 90s, because my son was born in 92. So all these kids are mid 90s kids. Well, they're taking the reins now. They are solving the problems, and they're, if you talk to them, you will be inspired. Anybody will be inspired. And to see that my daughter's getting a degree, she's getting her MBA and a master's in industrial engineering at University of Tennessee. And so she's, she and her friends are doing all these great things. And then my youngest son is now a senior in college, which is hard to believe. So at any rate, it's to see these young people. Golly, did I just say young people? Young people. To see how they're approaching, to see the foundations that they have, to see what they're building on the foundation of education, of people that believed in them, people that encourage them, and now they're taking that and they're going out in the world and doing things. So that's why I do feel like I would love it if there's some kid that hears this song and thinks, yes, I can do it. I'm gonna solve the problem and save the day.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Roger, for talking with me today. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. This is great.
I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh gosh, the advice I would say, if you want to be a writer, is to write and write and write. So if you write one song, great. Go ahead and start the next song. And if you get that one finished, go ahead and start the next song. And don't worry if each song is perfect. I promise you, didn't pop out of, John Lennon's head, just like as a complete song. And he probably had Paul McCartney over there saying, you can work on that melody a little bit. But, but you think that when you hear the finished product, you think it's finished. So just keep writing. And if you're aspire to be a live performer, then just take every opportunity to get out in front of people and do your thing. And don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to stumble a little bit, and don't be afraid to kind of go wrong directions, because I think that is when you get better, and that's when you learn your craft. Bringing it backward.